Expert TA's online homework system offers the most symbolic questions on the market, and they are graded as more than just right or wrong. This partial credit grading, along with sophisticated feedback provided to students, leads to usage data that is examined in an offline service called Expert TA Analytics. The following information is from one of Dr. Matt Evans' classes at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. It was first presented at an American Association of Physics Teachers National Conference. In this overview area, you can see that in Dr. Evans' class, there were 120 students and he assigned 228 problems over the course of 16 assignments. Approximately 40% of those problems involve some sort of symbolic question, which helps capture more of the students' work and helps them focus on not just numbers, but also relationships. Overall, there were over 32,000 incorrect answers submitted. When this happens, students are offered meaningful feedback in Expert TA, and they access it at a high rate, as you can see here. This increases their ability to reach the correct answer from 39% to over 80% of the time. Now let's take a deeper look at the meaningful feedback that is driving this high success rate. Here we list the 506 unique feedbacks that were offered to students. Starting with the most commonly occurring ones at the top, we indicate how many times each feedback was offered as well. Throughout the semester, there were over 9,000 instances of feedback altogether for this class of 120 students. The feedbacks occurring most often tend to be related to mathematical errors such as sign errors, trig errors, wrong units, or being off by a certain factor. These errors can occur across all chapters or topics. As we scroll down, we'll find more specific feedbacks that point to more of an error in the understanding of a physics concept in a specific chapter or topic, like these. Let's hear Dr. Evans' thoughts about Expert TA's feedback.
I use the program as a learning tool, allowing the Expert TA program to help students immediately obtain direct feedback. Allowing students to immediately see this detailed feedback clearly shows that it helps them overcome their misconceptions and obtain the correct answers at a rate 3 times higher than without the feedback.
Another helpful way to look at these specific feedbacks is to look at the most common feedbacks that occurred in the same question. Here you can see what percent of the class accessed that exact feedback and which assignment, problem, and even part it occurred in. Listen to how Dr. Evans used this data.
Looking back at the most common exact feedbacks not only allowed me to see the detailed questions with the most feedback, but also a snapshot of entire areas of the class where they had the most problems. Here we see that Chapter 9 had 3 of the top 6 most common feedbacks, so it may lead me to revisit how I introduced this material, paying particular attention to the areas students struggled with during their online assignments.
In this area, the data is organized by assignment. Here you can see that in an assignment entitled C7, Centripetal Motion and Gravitation, there were 266 feedbacks. The instructor can quickly identify the most common misconceptions and proactively address them when going over certain chapters or topics. Here's Dr. Evans' conclusion about this assignment.
Seeing the most common feedback helps me see where I can enhance my lectures. For instance, in Chapter 7, I might show a simple example converting radians per second to revolutions per minute at the end of a problem, as almost 25% of my class made this error.
And finally, in this area, grouping the data by student allows us to arrive at some of the key analytics provided in this report. We start in this column by identifying whether the student answered the question correctly, yes or no. And in this column, we determine whether they accessed feedback or not. This gives us the 4 possible outcomes listed here. When Dr. Evans' students chose not to access Expert TA's meaningful feedback, they arrived at the correct answer on their own only 39% of the time. You can see that there's a significant increase in this percentage of correct answers when feedback was accessed. In fact, across all Expert TA users, the percentage of correct answers jumps from 20% to over 85% when feedback is used. Lastly, the feedback improvement factor shows that students are over 3 times more likely to have a successful outcome after accessing Expert TA's sophisticated feedback than those students who didn't. There are many other ways we have organized this data that is helpful for instructors. In addition, Expert TA uses this information internally to help continuously improve our system. To learn more about Expert TA Analytics, or our online homework system in general, visit our website or contact us at main@theexpertta.com, where we'll connect you with an Expert TA representative who can assist you.